Whoa, what's going on here? Who's that Airas Meškauskas and why it's not from my chesty? Well, it happens to be that the chit-chat in the starting gates before the race not always goes in the right way, and this is an example how I forgot to turn on my camera. But because the start was pretty nice and I managed to go at the front, I realized that, well, did I actually turn on the camera? And thankfully that thought came to my mind and I tried to enable it, and then I realized that yep, I actually forgot it. So thankfully it was like 20 seconds into the race, I remember it and everything was fine. Hopefully the sound will be fine this time as well. So we are coasting very fast start of the race, and actually we're near Šiauliai in Lithuania and at Žemaitijos MTB Cup. So I'm in the lead group, 2 laps, around 60 kilometers in total. You can see that I was at the back of Artūras Kazakevičius, and 2 other teammates from his team went in front. They looked at each other and Artūras didn't follow them. I realized that probably he's not even gonna try to, so I just tried to close that gap. Beginning was very fast, you just go downhill, a bit uphill, and then again for pretty fast downhill. So we are coasting 50 kilometers per hour. And in front there is Kondratas, who is with a gravel bike. In the race, I noticed that he's in front of me at the start of the race. It happened in Akmenė, it happened in Anykščiai, and it's now happening in Šiauliai. I always try to overtake him because whenever it's technical, he's just making unpredictable moves. On the downhill he almost went into me, so yeah, better safe than sorry, so I always try to avoid him when it's possible. But on this course it was a bit of different story, because apart from few technical sections, it was more or less all the gravel. Because he was a gravel bike and the course had a lot of gravel, surprise surprise, it was very tough to catch him. We are going into a corner, Artūras was on the right, and at the back Airas Meškauskas was following, and you can see that he almost went off the bike in that fast corner. Artūras made very strong sprint in this upcoming uphill, and I tried to follow him, and surprisingly we went ahead, 2 of us, or at least we thought so. The gap opened up, but it was not for long, as Ignas Ambrasas with other few guys closed it. And I will actually add a few very interesting things about Ignas and this race recap. I was pushing really hard in the beginning of the race, probably too hard. That caused the front group to disappear. But thankfully Artūras probably made some mistake in the downhill, and I noticed that, alright, so this could be my chance. I could potentially stay with him or try to, and we could maybe close that gap once again. But yeah, the Artūras is not so easy, and thankfully there was Karolis, who helped kind of get closer to Artūras, so we managed to close that gap, and we are going to the uphill, which was pretty hard one, and because the gap was already there, I tried to do everything as much as possible to reduce it, but you can see that I'm still there. I'm with almost 180 PM, and I'm really suffering here. And you will see that it's 20 minutes into the race, and now 23 minutes into the race. At the top bar you can see that time I'm already like behind, significantly behind, and the group is disappeared. To make the matters even worse, it started raining, and on those unrolling meadow sections with some direct headwind, so it was like the place where you don't necessarily want to be. But thankfully there was Arnas Palaitis nearby, who sometimes covered that wind. And we are into the forest where, surprisingly enough, there was a kicker of some sort through a log. It was surprising because it was wet, it was narrow, but thankfully we made it, and we are going further into the forest. So where did Ivars disappear? On 5th kilometer or so, he lost the gearing because his shifter started to throw low battery and it just died. So somehow he managed to do the single speed and continued riding just to at least finish first lap. But after that kicker through the fallen tree, he managed to hit the pedal into some sort of stone, went over the bars, managed to destroy his pedal as well as the helmet. Thankfully the head was in place and the race was over for him. So yeah, hopefully next time it will be more successful, and thankfully it was without more serious injuries. Funny not funny, Ivars works in the hospital. I don't know how that profession is called, but basically he just do x-rays of the patients. Ivars, in case you're watching, I know you do, thankfully you won't have to x-ray your head and you'll be good to go without that procedure. Where on the routes I skidded, and there was no other way as to just unclip the pedal, because otherwise I would just went off the bike. So once again, all that hard work which we put not disappeared for Arnas, but kind of went away for me, because I lost a few seconds and Arnas is gone. Good for him, he managed to catch Marius Penaitis, and we were quite a distance away from me. So for remaining 5 minutes or so I was suffering alone, but then from somewhere Arturas Remeika appeared. He actually had some technical and he had to stop in the beginning, but he managed to catch me, and it was like, thankfully he's there, because otherwise, yeah, most likely I would not be able to catch Arnas, because he was already in our group, and we like, at least we will have a chance. So whenever I felt that we could go faster, I went in front of Arturas, but usually it was like 2 to 5 minutes at the most, and then he just went in front once again. If you look at the full onboard, you can take a look how the difference is of the heart rate when you are following someone from behind and when you are in front. So of course when it's a downhill, 140 doesn't say anything, but there were few occasions when going on the wheel, drafting, shall we say, was around 145 or 150, but then when you go in front of a group, it's like 170 in at least a minute or even less. So that's something. Like I used to say, it's always better to suffer a bit in order to try to catch the group and then rest a bit, or other way around, rest a bit and then suffer. So if you suffer in the beginning, at least you will have a chance to rest a bit if you are successful. However, if you choose to rest and don't catch them, well, you are destined to suffer all the remaining time, unless slower participants will catch you on the course. There were 2 fallen trees which you either could jump, maybe just drive through, or maybe stop and take the bike on top of them. I jumped them and actually hit some additional object, but here it was final sprint, and I'm not exactly sure why the guys decided to make that sprint, but it was massive. So Arturas managed to close the gap to Marius Penaitis, and then they kind of accelerated badly, and I was cleaning the lens and I missed that point, and then like I had to put a lot of effort in order to not let them get away. Talking about Remeika, I'm not sure what he's powered on, but it's second race when he had some sort of issue in Anikshi, he had a crash. Here he had a technical, but somehow he just gets himself into hands and goes again for half of a race in front of a group. So that was a strong effort from him. And the guy which just went in front is Marius Penaitis, and surprisingly he was going in our group as well. He kind of probably tried to go together with Kostas Kardelis unsuccessfully, and then he just probably swim over from that group, and that's how we end up riding 4 of us. Here was very poor choice of a line for me that caused slow acceleration time, and then once again you have to put those extra power watts into the pedals. It would be very interesting to know what race you would recommend to participate in August. So if you have some suggestions, just drop me a comment and I would appreciate that, because my calendar for August is pretty much not too busy. Well, except while on this downhill I noticed that in front there is the guy with white shirt. It's Kristijonas Rauba, who on the first lap flew like crazy and he was in top 5 or something like that. But if you notice the participants so slowly going, that means some sort of electrical issue in the main board has been caused, so you just have to go in any possible way in order not to leave the group. What was the new thing in this race is that it was climbing calm of some sort, where this climb was actually not too complex because you are just going on the gravel. I would say that it would have been a lot more interesting if it was in the forest on that first part of the lap. However, it was a nice addition by organizers. Despite the fact where it was placed, it was finally something new in Lithuanian MTB arena. Maybe someone did it in the past as well, but in other countries this is being done for quite some time. So we were kind of 2 comp sections with uphill climb, then last kilometer up to the finish was a sprint, which was timed from start to the end. So while we're going in the group for this time, Remeka managed to get away on the climb, but thankfully not for so long, because, well, Remeka also has to eat at some point, and we managed to catch him right away before the meadow. So whenever you see someone is eating, there are 2 options. You eat as well, or you just go full gas and leave him away into dust. Probably with Remeka on this day it wouldn't have been possible, but who knows. You can hear that in this video I'm talking a lot about closing the gaps, and if you won't open that gap, then you won't have to suffer that much. But because on this day I tend to do so often, it's just the way to elaborate how you should not do that. And you can see that Remeka is already quite away. Penaitis went really powerfully here. You can see at my watts. I'm trying to keep with him, but not this day, I guess. But again, they are not too far away and you feel like there might be some slight chance, but we'll see whether that chance is. Very often after a race people ask me, so Thomas, when it's going to be a podium, then you are going to be the first or whatever. What are the chances that you will become the leader in activity which someone has been doing for years, or maybe even from early ages? So the leader of this race, Ignas Ambros, has probably 1 week ago been in European Games. Ignas Ambros won this race. Of course, in European Games it was a bit of different story, because most of the best riders from whole Europe comes to such event. So it was XCO course, very technical, with few jumps here and there, steep climbs, routes, human-made obstacles, and everything you can imagine being in the technical course. He actually did a great job there, and he was not even the last, so it's a great achievement. He managed to overtake quite a few other participants, including Šarūnas Pacevičius from Lithuania. That could give you a bit of understanding what type of elite athletes participate here in the races in Lithuania. It's not always the case, but sometimes here and there they happen to be on the podium as well. Going back to Žemaitijos Taurė, we are approaching once again on the second lap very technical section on the routes. It's off camber, that means you go angular towards the coast, and there are a lot of routes, and I realized that if I'm not going to overtake Arnas, he might get away in this technical section. I went in front of Arnas not because I wanted to stop him in this technical section, but because there were different lines, so if you choose the proper line you might get a bit more in front, or other way around, if you choose the incorrect line, the others going from the back can get in front as well. But that was not the case, and Arnas only managed to overtake me on this gravel road, and he kind of added really strong effort here that probably he expected I'm not going to respond maybe, but here is his brother, so maybe they had some ideas together, I don't know, but I realized that I'm not going to participate in between of them. And I tried to go at my own pace, maybe a bit higher. Apparently that was the last breath from Arnas and he was left behind, but his brother had a different idea. He sprinted really strongly here and I had no other chances to try to catch him back. It was not an easy one. You can see that my heart rate is going up, my watts output is going up as well, and we are coasting, it's like 200 meters away. And I thought that everything is fine here. I'm pushing strong, it's a bit of an uphill. At this point, like 50 meters away from the finish, both legs got cramped and I stopped pedaling because it was unbearable. Unfortunately, there was one other guy who managed to go in front of me. In the end, I was 9th out of 24 in the age group and 10th out of 47 in overall elite 2 laps distance. Yet again, it's 10th position, Tom 10, goes 10, but once again, there were a lot of missing participants. But well, it's not my problem. With that said, if you want to take a look at the full onboard, you will find it in the comments, in the description, on the sidebar, everywhere. And yeah, thanks for your time, and I hope to see you around. Actually, I'm going to do bike weight in video. I never had a proper scales to do so, now I do, and we will see how much my Scott Spark weighs. So if that's interesting, you can subscribe to the channel in order not to miss that video. So until next.